Lecture 2, Rational Choice Theory and Logic. Welcome back to the Science of Irrationality. Today's lecture is going to be about rational thinking. This is still part of epistemic rationality, and so we are trying to figure out how to form good beliefs. And again, I've got an example for you to think about, and we will refer back to it. Actually, we're going to get into it in some depth in a later lecture. But today I want to just propose for you that there is a group of people who believe that the earth is flat. These are flat earth believers, and there's actually a flat earth society that has been around for quite a while. They have a website that you can go to, www.tfes.org. If you go to the website, it's a repository of information about their theories of the earth being flat. There's a discussion forum there, and you can get into discussions with them about their beliefs and why they believe it. There's also an annual 2-day Flat Earth International Conference. It turns out the Flat Earth Society is not related directly with the conference, but one assumes that the people who go might be of similar kind and some overlap. And of course, you may have heard that there are a number of celebrities who have publicly stated that they are flat earthers as well. So we're going to get into it in much greater depth in a later class, but for now, what do flat earthers believe? Well, they believe the earth is flat. They have maps. They believe that the continents that we are familiar with, they don't have any problem with that. They all exist, but they're arranged differently on a flat surface, and they have maps that show it. They also believe that there's a conspiracy, a big conspiracy out there to keep the truth from us, and that many people are involved in it. NASA has been lying to us for all these years. They question all of the photographic evidence. Any of the familiar photographs from space that you may have seen, they feel those are all photoshopped. And they also have a number of kind of interesting workarounds for simple problems that you might easily come up with. Like, for example, we know that at night the light goes away, and then in the morning the sun comes back, right? And our explanation for that is that we're on a globe and it's turning, and when the sun is on one side, it's sunny, and when it's not. They have a workaround for that, which is that the sun, in their view, is sort of like a flashlight that moves around the flat earth. And so when you're in the beam, it's daytime, and when the beam moves away, it's darkness. So I'm just going to leave that there for now. And we will come back to that and evaluate the belief later on. But it will, as we acquire these tools in the class, we'll have other ways to sort of look at those kinds of beliefs and others that we'll encounter. Okay, I would like to introduce you to something called rational choice theory now. This is a common theory that is used often by psychologists and some philosophers to create a model for what would be a rational way to think and act. And you'll notice, again, there is this focus on two things, on beliefs, but then actions based on those beliefs. So according to rational choice theory, an action is rational if it's the best way to accomplish your goals. And this is the instrumental part of rationality. On the other hand, a belief is rational if it is grounded in the information that's available to you, and that requires that the person, in some cases, may need to search for information. They can't just sit on their laurels and go with their gut. Of course, there are going to be circumstances in which you can't search for information. So if you are a soldier on the battlefield and you're trying to figure out what the best thing to do in this particular moment is, you may not have time to search for more information to base your decision on. But given adequate time, then you should be able to search for enough information or whatever is available to you, and then base your actions on those beliefs. There's some really interesting things about this theory that might not be obvious to you. One is that according to this idea of rational choice, you don't have to be successful to be rational. There are going to be situations in which you only have part of the information. It's not possible to know exactly what the right thing to do is, but you have made an adequate search and you've made logical decisions about your beliefs, and you take the action that seems right. You still might fail because you don't have enough information or the circumstance is not right, but you at least have made the right effort. And so success is not required for rational choice theory. It has a sort of subjective aspect to it, so that the person should looking back on the situation, should not say, "Oh, I should have done something differently. I had sufficient information, and I should have taken choice B instead of choice A." So in rational choice theory, you get a good mark as long as you have done the best you can with what's available to you. Now, the theory is based, however, in belief. The idea that you are going to establish beliefs and that you are going to act according to them. In the next few sessions of the course, we will focus on how to form good beliefs. And so that is going to be our focus for now, is rational thinking and formation of rational beliefs. We'll later on go on to instrumental things, what to do with those beliefs once you've got them. So a few more words about what's required for rational thinking. First of all, you do need to evaluate the evidence. You do need to look at what evidence is available in the situation, and willful ignorance is not allowed. In other words, you can't just say, "I'd rather not look over there. I like the beliefs I have. I'm just going to go ahead with my own thinking." That's not a rational response to the situation. In addition, the use of logic is very important. You want to take the pieces of information that are available to you and put them together in a logical way so that you're coming to good conclusions. You also are not allowed to do what we call wishful thinking. It's common for people to say, "I wish this were true. I wish this belief held, and so I'm going to act as if it is." That's not a good enough reason, and that will often get you into trouble. So much of what we're talking about in the next section is going to be about forming good beliefs. And one of the things that we're going to deal with later on is the idea that a lot of information that comes to us is not direct information that we've acquired, but is information that comes to us from other people. And that's going to take some special thinking to make sure that we're not being duped by others. Okay. As part of rational choice theory, we should understand that a choice, in this view, is an action. You are choosing to do something. And that brings us to economics and Adam Smith again. And I want to just briefly introduce him now, and we'll encounter him again later in the course. But Adam Smith was the Scottish philosopher and economist from the 18th century, very famous fellow in the history of economics. He's the one who introduced the idea of the invisible hand of the marketplace. He is the basis of what we call free market economics. And he believed that if everyone had equal information in a fair situation and was to act selfishly, that everyone actually would benefit. It's kind of an interesting and idealistic view of the world, but it has been very influential. We will also learn, though, that he was not just concerned with selfishness, that he also recognized that people have what we call other regarding preferences. And by other regarding preferences, he means that we are sometimes pleased when other people do well. So, but he is the standard, and the self-interest standard is the one that has been so important to this idea of rational choice, that we should be acting in ways that meet our own goals, that help us get to our own goals. So to summarize, the theory is based on the idea that we have beliefs that guide our actions. Those beliefs should be sound and based in evidence, and that we then go on to take action. And it has that interesting quality that being successful is not necessary. You can be a rational person, do your best, and still fail, but at least you've been rational in doing so. Okay, so how do we acquire beliefs? We can, of course, acquire them ourselves from direct experience of the world, and that's often good. We like to think that seeing is believing, that seeing things and having direct contact with them is a good way to acquire information about the world. However, it's also the case that our senses can lie to us. We can be fooled. There are hallucinations. We can be biased even in the way we look at the world. And so seeing isn't always the best way to acquire information. And secondly, it's also the case that it's just impractical. We are, each of us, only one person. And so your direct experience with the world is going to be extremely limited. And in fact, most of what comes to you will come to you from someone else, just as what's coming to you right now is coming from another person. And so the goal there is to evaluate the information that's coming to you from someone else. We do need experts. We do often want to know whether an expert knows what they're talking about and can be trusted to give us good information. But there's also a lot of non-expert information that comes to us, and we need to be able to evaluate that as well. So how do we judge these things? Well, before we get too far into it, and we will talk much more about how to evaluate the claims of others in the next unit. But right now, I'd like to introduce you to some basic ideas about logic, which is important to that formation of beliefs. Logic is a very large topic. There are whole courses on it, many courses on it, and I don't want to get too deeply into it. But I do want to just give you the basics so that we are all on the same page about how claims and beliefs are put together. Plato and Aristotle, especially Aristotle, were very much involved in the basics of understanding logic. Aristotle wrote a whole piece on rhetoric, which is the art of persuasion through speech, and was concerned with logic in that work. It was very important in ancient Greece that people could express themselves logically and clearly and be persuasive. It was often the case that individuals in Greece had to represent themselves in court. And so the better you were at wielding rhetoric, the better you might be, and you might prevail in court. So this was a big concern for the ancient Greeks. We could start by just on a very broad level by being concerned about what kind of logical issue we have. For example, some questions that we deal with are objective questions that can be answered with facts and evidence. Other kinds of claims are more subjective. So, for example, I might say to you something like this that I think everyone out there should agree with, and the statement is, Led Zeppelin is the best rock and roll band of all time. So I could say that to you, I suspect you might not be, some of you might be able to go along with that, but many of you would not be persuaded or immediately accept that. I might even offer factual information to back that up, to try to persuade you to my point of view. I might say, for example, that Jimmy Page, the guitarist for Led Zeppelin, is ranked number 3 in terms of the best guitarists of all time, according to Rolling Stone magazine. I might also say that Robert Plant has a unique and powerful voice. That's also a fact. And these things might have some impact, but you probably recognize that this is a subjective question. This is not a question that can be proven with factual information. It can be supported by factual information, but it cannot be proved. Another statement I could make might be that the Empire State Building is the second tallest building in New York City. That's a factual statement, and we can figure out whether that's true or not. So factual claims have that aspect of being testable. As it turns out, the Empire State Building is actually, at this point in time, only the 4th tallest building in New York City. So when we evaluate these claims, we are going to look at the arguments that are being made, and often an argument sounds like something that's bad, but in philosophy, arguments are just a thing. They are not. It's not something that is angry or conflict laden. An argument is simply a claim or conclusion that is supported by premises. And so our job in evaluating various conclusions is to see whether the premises are factual, whether they are true or not, and whether they're organized so that they support each other. So let's get into this a little bit more. Here's a question. I'm going to provide you with a little logical claim supported by premises, and your job is to determine whether it's valid or not. So here it is. All humans are mortal. Socrates is human. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. It's probably one of the most famous syllogisms there is, and it does make sense, right? You have the larger category of all humans are mortal. You fit Socrates into the category of being a human, and so therefore he must be mortal if those premises are true. What about this one? Premise 1, all sandwiches are food. Premise 2, some food is hamburgers. Conclusion, therefore some sandwiches are hamburgers. This is interesting because individually these statements are all true. If you think about it, all sandwiches are food. Some food is hamburgers, that's true. And therefore some sandwiches are hamburgers. Well, everything's true about that except for the therefore. The second statement does not support the conclusion that some sandwiches are hamburgers. And you can test that by substituting some other word for hamburgers. For example, premise 1, all sandwiches are food. Premise 2, some food is apples. True. Conclusion, therefore, some sandwiches are apples. No, that doesn't work. So we do need to, in evaluating the claims of other people, we do need to determine whether they fit together well, whether the claims that they're making fit together well. And obviously, in the case of the food example, they don't. In the Socrates case, they do.